All right, welcome. As Bill Newell would say, hello everyone. Or Mike. What did Mikey say? Mike on Channel 5. I don't know. Hi everybody, or something like that. Anyway, I'm Rick Moore. This is MSO News Sports, but this is the Salem News podcast, the Sports Writers Podcast, along with Gloucester Times. As we have Phil Stacy, who is the executive sports writer for the Salem News, along with the assistant sports writer, assistant editor, Matt Williams, and of course, Nick Giannino and Nick Kukrow. And I'm very nervous, guys, because I haven't done this in a while, but welcome and thank you, one and all. We are in the middle of fall 2, and it's rapidly moving along, and I want all of your opinion, but Phil, starting with you, it seems to me that despite the hiccups, despite the protocol, the COVID protocol, and the very creative scheduling, the kids are really getting something out of this.
Oh, I think so, for certain. Yeah. As you said, we are right in the middle. I mean, this is week 4 out of 7, so this is literally the middle. And at least locally, with the exception of a hiccup at Fenwick, at Masconomet, caused some other teams to miss games, Peabody, and of course Swampscott hasn't played since week 1. By and large, it's been pretty good. So we've been fortunate. It's good to see that players and coaches and even their families are adhering to the COVID-19 protocols and keeping everyone safe. I haven't seen any issues with masks at games. I think the fans, while they want to be there, are understanding whether it's limited seating or where they have to be outside a fenced area, things like that. So the important thing is these kids are getting the chance to play. That includes volleyball and track and field as well in this fall 2 season. They're all getting a chance to do their thing. And so far, 98%, so good.
In terms of football this past weekend, a lot of really big games, and there's been some really exciting scores and some interesting scores. But I want to start with Matt, if I could, because the Peabody Masco game, when I saw that final score, it did surprise me. Masco had had a tough loss the week before. Peabody hasn't been playing, but a big win for the Tanners, wasn't it, Matt?
Well, sure it was. I mean, I think as with all these things at this time of year, you have to look at the players that didn't play, right? So Masco was without Teddy Fellows, who for my money is the best lineman in the NEC. And another senior for them, Greg Walker, went down just before halftime. And he had 75 yards from scrimmage running and passing in the first half. And his 45-yard screen pass was what set up Masco's only touchdown, right? So it was sort of, I think fully healthy. Perhaps Masco wins that game, although Peabody would tell you, well, listen, we didn't have Kyle Maglione. He's our 2-time NEC All-Star. He's our captain, and we didn't have him either. So, that's how it goes this time of year, right? Everybody's banged up and everything. But I think, certainly based on the picks, right? Phil got his first upset in 18 months. I think he picked this one. I think his pick was based on the health, right?
I think that's true. Yeah, I think that's true.
And so, but hey, full marks to Peabody, right? I mean, they have been in better condition than their opponents. And, they're a team that is certainly learning X's and O's and has a lot of young players, right? But they're not going to outfox a lot of teams, but they are going to outwork them. And so far this season, I mean, they've allowed 3 points in the second half. Shut out Marblehead in the second half, only allowed a field goal to Masco in the second half. They have been the fresher team in the fourth quarter of both of their games so far, and that is why they had a chance to beat Marblehead and why they did beat Masco. And, I don't think that sharing this would be talking out of school. I'll leave the name out, I guess. I'll say one of the coaches after the game said to the Peabody players, hey, fellas, those guys are gassed. They're all done. And we feel like we could play another quarter if we had to. That's the conditioning. And I think that's the difference. This team is well conditioned and it's showing, and now they have a chance, right? I mean, you look ahead They got Danvers this week, then Beverly, and now they got a chance to go on a run. And so, can they be consistent? Can they do it? We'll see. But I think it's a team that nobody really expected to be in position to make a run after 3 weeks, based on what they lost from last year and the way they played. I mean, you lose what? 10 starters off a 4-7 team. You think maybe you're going to be in some trouble,
I know, and I think that's great, and obviously great analysis. And I gotta tell you, when I watch you guys with Bill, all the names that you come up with these kids, as a parent, man, I got to be watching this thing because you just keep up with everybody, and it's great analysis. I appreciate it. That Matt, before we get back to later, maybe you want to tell me a little bit about Bishop Fenwick, because they're favored. They've got a heavy lineup and a big game last week. Well, I don't want to call it an easy game, but a big win, a good win for Fenwick.
Oh, what a team they have. I mean, honestly, they one of the Metro papers has them ranked ahead of St. John's Prep this week, which I think perhaps might be a little bit of a stretch, but that just shows you how good Fenwick is. I mean, seniors everywhere. Chris Wilson, a guy who had 1 day of practice, comes out and throws for 202 yards in the first half alone. And their defensive line, which Phil highlighted last week, I encourage everybody to go read that story. I mean, they are as quick a unit as you're going to find, I think, anywhere north of Boston. I mean, honestly, Matt Junot and Chris Faraka there in the middle are so fast. And you look at them, they're not 260, 270, 280 pound kids, right? They're a little bit smaller, but they're so fast. That first step is so fast. Matt Junot was basically more or less unblockable on Friday night and disrupted everything that Bishop Stang wanted to do. And, when you can make an offense one-dimensional by taking away the middle of the field just with one guy or two guys, I mean, that is that's a coach's dream, and so just you struggle to look ahead and see who might challenge Fenwick. And I'm sure our friends at St. Mary's don't want to hear that. And there's some really good teams in the CCL, but looking at it objectively, it's hard to imagine a team that can give them a run for their money in their division.
I just hit something. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Something popped up on my screen and I hit exit. So I don't know what I'm doing. Bill, I want to circle around back to you about the prep that Matt just mentioned, but I want to bring on the two Nicks here first of all. And Nick Giannino, Marblehead just continues to roll.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first time I seen them, and I expected them to be good. I know they had that tough second half against Peabody, like Willie alluded to last week, and I think they used that as kind of motivation for this week. They wanted to come out strong, and obviously Saugus is a little bit down as a program this year. Just in terms of size and depth, there was a real discrepancy there. So you figured Marblehead might be able to do some things, but they played really well. They stuck it to them. It wasn't one of those cases where you played down to the opponent. Not taking anything away from Saugus. I thought they played really hard, and even Jim Rudloff, the Marblehead head coach, praised their coaching staff and what they've been able to do. But 42-6 game. Josh Robertson really showed his arm strength. He had some nice passes, a couple passes on the run, which was good to see. He's a guy that put on 25 pounds since last fall, grew a couple inches, so he's more of a dual threat now at the quarterback position, and that's showing. So yeah, I think Marblehead probably still one of the teams to beat in the NEC. You guys can chime in on that, but they've looked pretty good early on here. They got a good run game too with Cronin. I believe that's Timmy Cronin's younger brother, right, guys?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Wears the same number, kind of looks like him out there. So he's been playing well. He's only a sophomore. They got, I did want to give a shout out to their kicker, Eli Feingold, who missed the game at Peabody with some COVID issues, but returned to the lineup, hit all his extra points against Saugus, 6 for 6, and was pinning them deep with his kickoffs. One of his kickoffs even went through the end zone, which you rarely see at this level. So Marblehead's in a good spot right now for sure.
I want to get back to again. Phil had one of the most amazing games I think was Danvers Beverly. I want to get to that. But want to bring in Nick Kukru too. Nick, Gloucester. all the coverage you guys have been doing, it makes me wish that this were a full 12 or 13 game season, because the competition is so amazing right now, considering a 2-week preparation period. And these guys, from your reports, are playing, like they've been out there since August. And Nick, I guess a real pleasant surprise, Gloucester having to change its schedule last week, planning to play in Swampscott and ending up in Boston.
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario. That was about, I know, I won't mention any names. They wanted to get a Cape Ann League team on that schedule, but the Cape Ann League is not allowing any non-league games, so they weren't allowed to play that much closer opponent from the Cal that didn't play this week. But, they took the trip up to Dorchester, and, they really took care of business, 44-6 at one point, ended up 44-26. They probably should have killed that team, Tech Boston. They were far superior, but I mean, again, with them, it's just, about improving this season. And that I don't think they were capable of putting up 44 points in a game a year ago. I mean, they've already scored they've already scored more points than they did all of 11 games last season.
Wow.
And they've taken a clear step forward. It's been nice to see. I mean, it's been a group of sophomores too that's been leading the way, and that where I think really helped them playing in fall too, as opposed to the fall, because these sophomores got a whole extra season to get ready, and they're kind of closer to juniors now than they would have been at the beginning of August. So they've probably grown a lot more since then too. But I mean, we've seen. Frank DeSisto, he's run for over 100 yards the last 2 weeks. He's broken off a 55-plus yard touchdown run each of the first 3 games, so he's kind of been their bell cow. Caleb DeCoste at fullback is just tough as nails running between the tackles, and they have a couple linemen too. Jaden Del Torchio, a tight end defensive end, he's just super athletic. He's big, and he kind of dominates in both spots. And Brian Swain, offensive tackle Brian Swain, has kind of been the real surprise for them. He didn't play as a freshman, come out this year as a sophomore. He's a starting tackle, and he's been good in every game. So they're off to a great start, 3-0. But now we'll see. We know they've gotten better, and we'll see just how much they've gotten better, because they're running the gauntlet the last 4. Beverly coming up Saturday will be their first really big challenge. I know they got Winthrop, Peabody, and Danvers after that. So they're going to be tested big time the next 4 weeks.
I'm going to ask Phil about Beverly and Danvers in a second here, but Nick, while I have you, you mentioned young kids for Gloucester, but Manchester Essex also, according to Jeff Hutton, they've got kids who've never played football before who are in a tough loss, but a good game.
Yeah, they actually showed a lot in that. Manchester Essex, they have a very young offensive line, so they've been struggling offensively, especially in the Cal. If they were playing that independent schedule, or as the breaking news was last week, they're coming back into the Commonwealth Conference in the fall. Them and Georgetown are both going to the Commonwealth Small. I don't think they'd have those same kind of growing pains on the line that they are this season playing in the Cal. But I mean, they got some skill players, and they showed against Amesbury, who was a tough physical team, that they can kind of push back too. They did not get out physical in that game. I just thought Amesbury had a little bit more push in that last quarter on their touchdown drive. They're one of those teams that kind of really packs it in. They run like a T formation in the backfield, and kind of like the old Lynn Classical with Matt Durgan, where you can't really tell who's got the ball. They're handing off dive after dive. And, it finally paid dividends in the fourth quarter. But that was a good step up for Manchester Essex. I know they beat Triton the week before, but, they had some chances to win that game. And that was one that I thought they'd kind of lose by 2-3 touchdowns.
Wow. Okay. Phil, Friday night, Tim Kearns was texting me the Beverly Danvers game, and Beverly goes out 14-0. And I'm thinking, okay, boy, Danvers is they're all done. Not so much, though.
No, I don't think he was alone in thinking that. You have a freshman quarterback making his first ever start in Travis Voisin. Unfortunately, Danvers' senior quarterback, Darren McDermott, is out for the year with an injury suffered the previous week at Beverly, which is too bad. He's a great kid, good quarterback. I know he's looking to keep playing at the next level, so I hope that happens for him. Freshman running back starting his first game, Owen Gasanowski. Awful lot to put on those 2 players at, 2 skill positions like that against the Beverly team that beat him up pretty good the previous week and raced out to a 14-0 lead on this past Friday. Looked like they were going to cruise. And in hindsight, I wonder if maybe that was a problem. They figured, okay, well, there's going to be another blowout and we're going to roll them. To take nothing away from Danvers, but I think Beverly let Danvers hang around a little bit too long, and it ultimately cost them. Danvers kept plugging. They stepped it up defensively. They kept Beverly obviously from getting into the end zone again. The wind played a factor. If anybody was out of games on Friday, Will, you were at a game Friday with Fenwick, and you know what the wind was like. Really strong, blown in one direction. So if you had the ball with the wind, that was advantageous. Danvers in the fourth quarter had the wind at their backs, took advantage of a couple of shanked punch by Beverly's, which led to short fields. They got a couple of touchdown catches from Jimmy Carmelia. One right in the corner of the end zone, disputed. Beverly didn't think he got a foot down. Danvers obviously thought he did. And what was most important is the official right there got his foot down. I mean, I was right there, literally standing at the pylon. In fact, I'm in a couple of the shots, I think, that people were floating around. And even I couldn't tell. It was like a bang play where he went up with Andre Sullivan, the defensive back of Beverly. And it was so close to tell, but it was ruled a touchdown. So Danvers ties the game. They kick a field goal in overtime. And then they stop Beverly twice on the 1 yard line in overtime to pull out the win. So huge win for Danvers. When again, you're thinking if they lose that game, geez, are they going to win a game this season? Like, how's it going to be? It's going to be devastating for them. But now they have the momentum back. They're feeling great about themselves. And Beverly needs to find a way to right the ship. I mean, I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say this was a game that they 100% should have won and did not. So now they're going back home. They're facing undefeated Gloucester. And while Nick Kooks had alluded to the fact that they have not played the level of competition that Beverly has seen, still, Gloucester's 3-0 and Beverly's 1-2, and Beverly has a lot to prove on Saturday, in my mind. They got to get back to the team that played week 2 and really smacked Danvers up front, won that physical battle, and ran all over them. They need to get back to doing that. If they allow Gloucester to dictate the tempo or even hang around in a game, Beverly maybe is leading by a touchdown, so let them hang around. We saw what could happen last week, so Beverly needs to make a statement this weekend.
You covered a couple of other games too, Phil, before we get to other stuff. Salem, Winthrop.
Yeah, you know what, Rick? You walk the walk, you talk the talk. 3 games this weekend. That was all right. Doubleheader on Saturday. I didn't mind. Yeah, so Salem Winthrop was the second of the 2 games I did Saturday. Salem obviously doesn't have use of Bertram Field this year, so they played the game over at Donaldson Field at Bishop Fenwick. Nice to see the 2 athletic directors, Scott Connolly, our buddy at Salem High, and Dave Woods, our buddy at Fenwick. They were chatting amicably on the sidelines for a lot of the game and all. Winthrop obviously was a lot stronger than Salem. The final score was 41-0. But the real story in that game came about halfway through the fourth quarter when big hit by the Winthrop defense on Salem quarterback Michael Reddy was helmet to helmet, unintentional, of course, but helmet to helmet, and he went down. He fumbled, and he was not moving, and you could tell it was serious. He was flat in his back. The Salem trainer came out. The coaching staff came out. The officer on duty, Scotty Vlasic, came onto the field. They called the fire department. They called the ambulance. It took about 20-25 minutes. Thankfully, he didn't lose feeling in his extremities. He was aware of what was going on. His neck was sore, but he was smiling when they were talking to him and all, from what Coach Matt Bouchard and Scott Connolly told me. He did get transferred to the hospital. They called the game at that point, which I think was a smart move, considering that both of Salem's quarterback, he and Corey Grimes, freshman, were dinged up. And the best news of all is Matt Bouchard told me on Sunday that tests were negative. The MRI was fine. X-rays were fine. Michael was resting comfortably. So I can't say he's going to play this weekend against Saugus, but thank God no structural damage, nothing with his neck, his head, anything like that. He's good to go. Just a scary moment in that game.
All right, Phil, finally, the prep, they run into a couple of buzzsaws. They're young, and there was a lot of promise shown a week ago. What about the game against Catholic Memorial?
Well, right. I mean, you got a St. John's prep team, and this is not an excuse. This is just simply fact. They have 4 players back from their Super Bowl team that beat Catholic Memorial in the 2019 Super Bowl. Catholic Memorial has a boatload of players back, and they have a lot of talented underclassmen. That entire backfield, aside from Owen McGowan, the fullback who's going to Boston College, there's 3 sophomores and 1 junior, and they can all run. They can all find those holes. They can all get yardage after the carry. They were tough to bring down. They were tough kids. That and the fact I think that the St. John's Prep offensive line is a little bit beat up. They were down to their 3rd string right guard. And against the CM team that was big, that was strong, that was physical, and were very quick, that spelled disaster. I think most times, I mean, guys, what would you say? You have 4 interceptions and you recover 2 fumbles. 6% of the time you're going to win that game. You're going to somehow win that game. Not only did St. John's Prep not win that game, having 4 interceptions and recovering 2 fumbles, but Catholic Memorial also scored 7 touchdowns. So think about that. They had 11 possessions. They scored on 5. They scored on 5, right? They fumbled on 2. They had passes picked off on 4, but they blocked a punt for a touchdown, or they returned a punt for a touchdown, I should say. And they recovered a fumble of their own, a prep touchdown, and ran that back for a touchdown. So CM was in full fall 2 beast mode, I guess you could call it. Look, they're just better than St. John's Prep this year. There's no shame in that. I mean, they're not going to beat them in the Super Bowl this year because there is no Super Bowl. So, if I'm St. John's, yeah, it stings. Of course, it's lousy. And props to CM. They're a really good team. They're going to be a really good team this fall. But if it's ever going to happen in a season where like it counts, but it doesn't really count, this is maybe not such a bad thing.
Yeah, and I keep thinking that this is like college strength sports because except for our high school seniors, it's going to be a very short summer and these kids are going to be right back at it. So
right.
Great experience for them. Phil, is there anything else I should ask your teammates here before I ask you a question in general for all of you guys? Either about football or other fall sports you could guide me?
I mean, just taking a look at this weekend's games, we got, with Good Friday coming up this weekend, there's a couple of Thursday night games. I know Bishop Fenwick, will look to stay unbeaten when they go down to play Bishop Stang on Thursday night. And Will, you want to talk a little bit about Danvers and Peabody Thursday?
Sure. Yeah. Color rush game, right? Both teams coming off big wins. I believe we're going to have visiting fans allowed, right? Where they were allowed at Masco this past week too. So that's a great development in the NEC, and just an interesting game. Coach Betancourt for Peabody put it this way at the end of his remarks on Saturday after their win. He said, "Look, we haven't really done anything yet. We're 1-1. Let's see what we can do against Danvers." And Danvers is coming off a monster win, and Peabody hasn't beaten them since 2015. I don't think they've beaten them without Doug Santos since 2009. So, I mean, it's been a while, and those kids want it pretty bad, and Danvers wants to prove that they can win no matter who's under center and stuff. So I think it'll be a great game. It always is. I mean, the majority of the games between those two teams have been decided by 1 point, 2 points, 1 touchdown. Last year was 14-13. A couple of years ago, a 7-0 game. So, I expect more of the same.
And this Friday, I know we got a couple of games. Ipswich is 2-0, beating a couple of those Cal Baker teams. Now they got a real test this Friday, going up to Newburyport, playing Cal Baker squad of Clippers. That's a 5:00 game up at World War Memorial Stadium. And Essex Tech will look to bounce back after a loss at Whittier on Saturday. They're hosting Greater Lowell at 5:30 on Friday. It'll be my first chance to see the Hawks this season, where Nick Gino and Willie have seen them both before. And then on Saturday, we mentioned Gloucester and Beverly. I mean, Cooks, I gave my thoughts on what Beverly needs to do. What do you think the fishermen have to do to hang with Beverly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all, the defense. Gloucester's been winning with defense this year. If they can keep that score low, they can hang around. I think they might have a little trouble moving the ball against that Beverly front. I know they're big, but Gloucester's defense has kind of made up for some of their offensive deficiencies earlier on in the season.
And Manchester Essex will have a tough road to hoe against a Linfield team that's been, they blew out one opponent and they've won a couple of one touchdown games, but they seem to be legit.
Yeah, they got things going. Full marks to Coach Lamusta. After Neil Weidman retired, it looked like maybe they'd be in trouble over there. But after one down year, they're world beaters again. So
Yeah.
good job by Patrick over there getting that program on track.
Absolutely.
Something's going to give when Salem and Saugus meet Saturday morning. They're playing over at Blocksedge Field in Swampscott. Salem is 0-3. Saugus is 0-2. So we'll see what happens there. St. John's Prep looks to rebound. They're going out to St. John's of Shrewsbury. I don't know, Willie. Do you know Shrewsbury's record? I can't say I do off the top of my head.
0-1. They lost to 7. They did not play last week with COVID. So I believe they're 0.
Okay. What else do we have? Masconomet and Marblehead. That'll be a good game.
Ooh, big one.
Yeah. Can Masconomet bounce back and Marblehead keep it going? That's been moved from 6 to 2 p.m. on Saturday for those of you who are interested. Winthrop was scheduled to play Cathedral, but I saw that they're now looking for an opponent. So I'm not sure what happened there, but Winthrop is looking for an opponent. And the only other game I know of is North Reading and Amesbury on Saturday at 1 p.m. Let's see. I think that's it.
Hamilton Wenham, did we mention them?
Did we mention the Generals? I don't think we did. No.
No.
Who are the Generals have this weekend?
Pentucket, right?
That's right. You
My
do.
guys.
That's right. Good call. Good call. At first home game for the Generals, right?
Yeah, that's right. I know they've kind of struggled out of the gate. Willie's seen them play. I haven't seen them play, but it looks like they get their quarterback back with Coffey under center. He did some nice things this past week. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, any team with a connection like Carter Coffey to Ryan Moynihan has to be considered dangerous. Thomas Ring is another ball catcher out of that backfield for Hamilton Wenham. Ryan Mulville Hill, another strong player for them. So we're hoping the Generals can get things back on track.
All right, I have one general question, guys. I don't even know where to start. But I want to bring this up. Tim Kearns is part of MSO, and Bill Newell and I, we're all former educators. And in my opinion, what happened down in Duxbury is an epic fail on the part of education, the whole educational system. And I can tie in January 6th with that as well. I think we've failed as educators. But I just wonder what your reaction is as sports writers in the area to this whole thing, because what we see, it seems to me, Phil, Nick, and Matt, week in, week out, year after year after year, is outstanding coaches from the NEC, from the CAL, from the Catholic schools, just all the time. And for that story to pop out like it did with a school like Duxbury that has such a championship pedigree, it's astounding to me. And I don't know who'd like to start first on that. Maybe Matt, and we'll go around the horn if you want to.
Yeah, I just was shocked. You read that there were questions about a play call, and you naturally assumed that it would be something perhaps was somewhat innocent, right? Then you hear what the actual was, and you say, well, no, there's no excuse for that. Totally indefensible. They did the right thing and get the guy. I would question any official refereed any of their games and heard that and didn't do anything in the past should be reprimanded. I mean, you just can't, there's no reason for it. You can't have it. And, people that have followed the podcast probably know that I'm not like a PC person. I tend to be kind of live and let live, but you can't have that. And you have of literally millions of words in the English language for your codes. And we've all stood on the sidelines. We've all heard funny codes. There's a team that has been yelling out Salem Field, the act as a code. And, you can use colors, you can use, avenues. whatever. I mean, literally any word in the English language, and you pick that, and nobody on the team or on the coaching staff said, hey, this isn't a good idea.
Yeah, really.
It feels like it can't possibly be real life. It feels like the Twilight Zone, and I just don't know where else to go with it besides that. It's abhorrent. We were right to get rid of the guy, and I don't say that very often. I'm not a big cancer person, but this guy does. I mean, you can't have that. You just can't.
Nick C.
Yeah, I think once we found out that those calls were actual audibles, there was no way. I mean, they had to do what they did to the coach. I know as someone who played football back in high school, when it comes to, sometimes you make some dummy calls, like we see what Peyton Manning do, and a lot of it is just a bunch, a load of crap. It's not anything significant to the play. So my first thought was, the kid thought he was being funny and said something stupid, and there's no way the coaching staff knew about it. But then when you find out that the play was an actual audible, there's no other place it could have come from. It had to have come from the coaching staff. The coaching staff had to be privy to this detail. So, and with that information, I have to agree wholeheartedly with Willie. It's pretty, there's really no way to excuse any of it.
Nick G.
Yeah, I tend to agree fully with what Matt and Nick both had to say. I think there's no place for that. It was shocking when I read about that. It just, the biggest thing to me, and I think Matt said that as well, is how could nobody on this team realize that wasn't right? I mean, I just don't understand how not one person stepped up and said, we can't have that. Like, what are we doing here? So, yeah, I think what they did was warranted in getting rid of him, and it's something we hope we don't come across anytime soon again. I mean, there's just no place for that.
Yeah, and Phil, I want you to have the final word, but week after week, as I was saying, watching you guys, watching the coaches, watching the kids, for many decades now I've been doing this, and it's all been positive. It's all been on the right side of things. And when we see this coming from such a championship team like Duxbury, with this coaching staff that's been entrenched, it just blows me away. So Phil, your final thoughts, please.
Well, that might be part of the problem, Rick, is that, you get to a point where your pedigree is so high, or you feel like it can't be tarnished, that maybe you think that you're above things. That, even if I get in trouble, it'll be a slap on the wrist kind of thing. I think everything my colleagues have said is spot on with this. How somebody didn't step up and say, this is not good. This is not acceptable. We shouldn't be doing this. I think maybe it's the culture of, well, if I say something, I'm going to be ostracized, or I'm going to lose my spot on the team or whatever. I mean, I thought about tweeting this out, and I ultimately didn't, but I've had one interaction with the head coach of his team. Duxbury played Beverly 2016 state semifinals. They had a great team. Blew Beverly out. I mean, clearly the better team. No doubt about that. They're up 4 or 5 touchdowns at halftime. Okay, so it's right before the half, and they're playing. Was it Colley Field, Willie, up in Lowell, where they used to play those semifinal games sometimes? Colley, right? On the
That's
turf.
correct. That stadium, yeah.
Yeah. And he has his quarterback, who is his son, who was a great player. I think he ended up breaking the state record for touchdowns. He threw a backwards lateral pass to a receiver split out wide, so the receiver could throw a bomb downfield. In the game, they're already ahead by 30 points. But it wasn't enough they did that. He had to show everybody how smart he was by having his quarterback throw a bounce pass. So it was obviously a play they practiced. A bounce pass off the turf to a receiver who then chucks it downfield. And I don't think it was completed, but to me, it just kind of was like kicking somebody when they were down. I mean, they were going to win this game going away. There was no way Beverly was coming back. Duxbury was bigger. They were faster. They had better athletes. That's great. You know what? Good for you guys. You win. Good luck in the Super Bowl, whatever. But I thought that was really, it was telling to me that it wasn't enough to win. It was being a bully and look how tough we are, and look how smart we are, kind of thing. And I never forgot that. And I'm pretty sure the Beverly coaches didn't either. So that kind of told me a little bit about where this guy was coming from. So when I heard this news, of course, it's shocking. How can it not be? But when I've heard other people say, "Oh, he's a great guy. He's got good character. He did so much for the town and all," I mean, it's like, yeah, I don't know about that. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents.